Hi everyone, welcome once again. This is IntuitiveEdge. Thanks for joining me. It's time to take a look at what's ahead coming up this week. I'm going to take a look at the cards and I'll be right back and we'll get started. Okay, there's a lot going on this coming week and beyond. Let's talk about Ukraine. So I did a spread I did a 7-card spread, a new spread to me, but I wrote this one out. I'm calling it the full circle spread. Feels like things are going to come around full circle in a lot of different ways. That could have a lot of different meanings. So let's talk about this week in terms of what's happening in Ukraine. Okay, when I first tuned into this, before I looked at the cards, just what I'm sensing, I sense that Putin will have a good week. That there's some type of news coming out with negotiations. A lot of truth is going to come out this week. Look for truth bombs and explosions of truth coming out. Now, that's interesting with all of the disinformation around this whole thing as well. Seems like there's a lot to sift through, but there's going to be a lot of truth. So it might be a matter of us having to sift through what's true and what's not, but there's going to be a lot coming out. So just be aware of that. I do sense a possible military victory for Russia in some way. And I do think that the Ukraine is under the impression, or maybe they're holding out hope, that the West is going to come in and save them. All right. I do sense some news about a thermonuclear scare, but I don't think it's going to come to fruition. It's just going to be out there as a scary buzzword. But let's get into the cards on this. Okay, so the first card out is this 9 of Cups. Very positive card. Now, this is right behind the King, and I'll show you how I was interpreting these in a minute here. We have this King of Wands. That 9 of Cups is backing him up. So this King has some type of wish being granted. I sense the King as being Russia or Putin. Now the King is facing right into the Queen. So there's some type of energy of this King advancing toward the Queen. And the Queen has kind of this standoffish feeling with her. She's kind of separated. She's got that branch thing in front of her, and she's kind of backed up a little bit. So, and right behind her, the energy backing her up is this card of refusal, the 4 of Cups. So we have your wish being granted with this King advancing toward the Queen, and she's like, I'm not so sure, no. Okay, so that's the dynamic happening between the Ukraine and Russia as we're seeing play out. But this is strong coming up this week, okay? When I first laid out the cards, before I even really looked at them, I sensed in with card number 5 to interpret it in a positive light. Now I've got the Death card. This is a card of major transformative change. It doesn't always or necessarily mean literal death. It just means something that's life-changing. And that is on the energy of what is hidden. And so there's something hidden behind the scenes going on that I am to let everyone know, at least on this video, that behind the scenes there are positive things happening with this situation in Ukraine and Russia. So not to feed into the fear or the negativity or the Putin is Hitler, any of that. There's something positive happening with this. Now, this is what will be uncovered. And that's what I got about some type of weapons, alternative weapons, chemical, thermonuclear, that kind of thing. And this is, to me, I just heard the word stockpile. So there could be a stockpile of weapons that are uncovered, or some type of weapons access maybe that gets uncovered, something that will be brought out into the open. Again, look for truth bombs to come out this week. I also heard when I was tuning into this a word of caution about donating money. This feels as though there are nefarious types that could be siphoning off any cash donations or taking advantage or exploiting this situation for financial benefit to their own gain. So be very, very careful and cautious. If it were me, just saying, I wouldn't give anything right now, because there just feels like there's too much going on that is nefarious and devious. And how do we really know if the money you donate is going to what you intend it to go to, or if it's being if you're being scammed? And I feel like there's a lot of scam energy going on with the donation things that are out there right now. I know Facebook and others are, here, donate to Ukraine. We don't know if that's really where that money's going. So just be cautious. If you want to give money, be super careful. If you want to give, really thoroughly vet the place. I mean, even some of the big name places, I'd just be careful in general. I just felt that real strong, a word of caution about giving money to this. Have you ever noticed, just as a sidebar here, that whenever there's a crisis, that all of a sudden all these donation things pop up? Here, donate there, give your money. Just be careful. That's all I'll say about that. Okay. So, all right. So the issue happening is I get the sense that Putin not only will have a good week, but it's like he's being like a gift happening to him. I don't know how to describe what I'm sensing with it. Whether it's like this military blunder that's a gift in his favor, or something happens that's like opens up something for him. He's going to have a good week. Okay. Sorry if some of you don't want to hear that, but that's what I'm sensing. Okay. The major influence is Putin advancing, him pushing forward further into the Ukraine and taking more areas, whatever he's doing to liberate some of the regions that have asked for help, that kind of thing. The fading or the waning influence is this card that I had represented by the Ukraine. So their influence they are becoming weaker. I'm just going to say militarily. And that's what's going to be happening. Russia's gaining strength. The Ukraine is losing strength. Okay. And then again, I kept getting this sense of, I think the Ukraine is feeling like the West is going to come to our rescue. They're going to bail us out. The West is going to help us. That's their intake on it. Okay. On the horizon, what's coming ahead? We have this refusal. Now again, I interpreted these cards differently at the outset because this is the energy of what I saw. But in terms of what I asked on the question, this card to me, this card of refusal, with the refusal backing the Queen and the Queen representing Ukraine, I don't think the help is going to be there, that she's thinking the West is going to come and help. I don't think that's going to happen. There's a lot of, no, we're not going to get involved. NATO, no, I don't think there's going to be the help that was promised or expected or hoped for. Okay, it's just what I get with that. Behind the scenes, we have that death card, that powerful hidden influence that I was told initially to interpret in a positive light. So there's something positive happening behind the scenes with this whole thing. And again, what will be uncovered, I heard stockpiles. I'm going to stick with that. I think that's what we're going to be seeing, that there's more that's going to be uncovered and exposed. And truth bombs. Look for truth bombs. And so the ultimate outcome, we have this card of karma. We have the medicine wheel. It's the wheel of fortune. This is things that are set in motion, that are put in place. So there's stuff coming out that can't be stopped this week. No matter how much people want to keep things covered or keep things from getting uncovered, however that influence works, this is like things are going to be happening whether some like it or not. And we have this influence underneath. The card of restriction could be arrest. This could indicate arrests, being restricted, not having access to something, being closed off. So that's what I sense for the Ukraine situation. There's a lot there to unpack, but ultimately this is good for Putin this week. And again, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what I'm sensing from the cards. However, I will say to use caution this week, not only with if you're giving money, but also with the news, because there's a lot of propaganda out there. So not everything we're being told is the truth. So just know that going into it. Not everything that we hear on the news is true. And I often feel a visceral sometimes, like, ugh, when there's so much heartstrings being pulled in the news. It drives me nuts. I'm just such, I have learned to verify darn near everything I hear on the news, and a lot of it I take with a whole bunch of salt, not just a grain, because I just don't trust a lot of what I hear coming out. So we have to be really careful with the news that we hear. Even my local news, as a sidebar again, my local news this week came out with this story about this person that died in Ukraine and how he was instrumental in helping to adopt out 5 children with Down syndrome. And I'm like, I don't think any of that story is true. That just sounds like a crock of BS to me. And what a mean person Hitler is. I mean, Putin. Right? So it's all designed to get you to lead with your heart and not with your head. Okay? So this is a time to really tune into the headspace, because we got to be critical thinkers about what's really happening. This is telling me there's something bigger going on underneath this whole thing. And if we're stuck in our heart bleeding, which there are some sad stories coming out, don't get me wrong, but there's a bigger piece playing into this. And if we're stuck being emotionally yanked one way or emotionally manipulated another way, we're not going to be centered and grounded in the truth of what's really happening. And isn't that where we want to be? Is in the truth? Trust but verify. Okay. All right. So that's what I get for Ukraine. Let's see what else we might be picking up on. I'll be right back. Okay, so what's going to be happening around the United States this week? Now, this could be, again, what could be coming up in the news, maybe a little beyond the United States. But I just wanted to lay out 4 cards, just looking at the issues we're going to be facing, the main influence, the hidden influence, and the outcome. And oh my, we have 3 knights coming out. Now, knights are my messengers. There's things that are going to line up that's going to really shift our focus this week. Wow, 3 knights. Okay, so this is my kitty deck. This is the Mystical Cats Tarot deck. So knights in this deck are called toms. So the first is the Fire Tom, which is the Knight of Wands. But this Fire Tom, he's walking along all these candles here, if you can see this cat. And the message is to kind of proceed. A lot of energy on proceeding, but also a little bit of a caution with it too. It's he's having to kind of navigate his way through these lit candles. And a lot of caution, but energy moving forward too. A lot of creative energy moving forward. So we're going to see advances, action being taken, things happening. Above that, the direct influence is another Tom. This is the Knight of Swords, the Sky Tom. This is direct action being taken. as you see this cat lunging for that bird. That's the energy of it. Attack. We're ready to move. We're ready to march forward. So to me, I feel something like with troops marching forward, looking to advance. Okay. There's energy on that. Now, I don't know if that directly is the United States or what we're going to be seeing internationally on the news, but that's the energy of it, is marching forward, taking action, and things are happening. And so the knights tell us that this is what's coming up. Be prepared, be ready. The other knight on this is next. This is the hidden influence. We have the Sea Tom. He's a little more laid back, but this energy is of being receptive, negotiations. And so we may be seeing that energy coming up. So taking action, trying to negotiate. Negotiations are going to be playing a big role this week, whether negotiations are being held or being refused or something like that. But negotiations will play big in the news this week. And it's all coming around circle to this card, the Five of Sky. And this is a card of a battle advancing. This is like the spoils of war. One side being defeated, one side winning, and the battle basically coming to its fruition. So I think we're going to see a lot coming up in the news this week. A lot with Ukraine. That might take front and center. Above everything else, that could take center stage. But this battle is coming to a head. And there's a lot of energy around it, a lot of troop movement, a lot of energy on striking first, trying to negotiate. And then underneath it all, we've got the card of balance, trying to get a handle on juggling and maintaining equilibrium and balance with the whole thing. So this is huge this week. Conflict and advancing strike teams. So just be aware of that. I think I'm going to leave that here. That seems to be the dominant energy for this week, is all about taking action and fighting and winning battles. So, all right, that's what I have for this week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time. This has been Intuitive Edge.